Okay, this is KP4MD, and good evening. KP4MD Carroll, your net control operator for the River City ARCS slow scan television net. This net serves for training and practice in image transmission modes. And we meet on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Pacific time on the N6NA repeater on 441.30 megahertz, and also on our N6NA YouTube channel. River City ARCS members and all licensed radio amateurs are welcome to participate. If you wish to join the net or need to make a call at any time, please announce your call sign between our transmissions and net control will acknowledge you. If an emergency should arise and you need the repeater, please contact net control by saying break break. A double break signifies emergency traffic. The net will stand by for you until the emergency is terminated or the traffic is moved to another frequency. Stations who wish to check in are asked to respond with their full call sign using the recognized I2 phonetic alphabet in their name. I will recognize each station before I continue. Okay. Any stations who want to check in to the net, please come now.
Alpha India 6 Delta Golf, Joel in Florence.
November 6 Hotel Alpha, Bill in Roseville.
Okay, what I have is Alpha India 6 Delta Golf, Joel. We have November 6 Hotel Alpha, Bill, and number 3 be myself, Kilo Papa 4 Mike Delta, Carol. Are there any other check-ins? Hey, nothing heard. We have a small group here tonight, which is fine. And we'll go up to the top of the list, Joel, the AI6TG. If you have a picture, can you please proceed to send it over?
Let me double check with Tone. Tell me if I have it. Wait a minute. Gotta close this window, and now.
Yes, good tone. Go ahead.
DD 120.
Okay, thanks for that picture, Joel. Bill, how did you copy that? November 6 Hotel Alpha. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, great copy here. I need to make it bigger. There's not that many pixel pops, maybe two very faint ones. The ID did get you almost at the end there. There's a little pattern, but yeah, this is an interesting picture. It looks like you're doing it looks like a parking lot. I see the two white lines for parking spot. There's a gym bag with a laptop on top, and then there's a signal stick, the Rig Expert antenna analyzer, and I see a battery behind it, and that looks like a KX2 near a backpack and a piece of luggage. There's two bags of McDonald's, it looks like, on the left-hand side, and I wonder if you're waiting for a flight and you decided to go up the parking garage and play some radio. I can't tell what's on the screen. I want to say it's FTA. It doesn't look like FTA from here, but I'm interested. What are you up to? N6HA back to that.
Yeah, this is KP4MD. I agree with that. There's a couple of jugs. I think one is a water bottle. The other one has some kind of a dark fluid in it. Looks dark, kind of like almost black. And I recognized what's on the screen of that laptop computer. It looks like WSJTX. So, yeah, Joel, could you please tell us what's going on here? Over.
So this is a few weeks ago. I was in Las Vegas for just eight days. I don't know how many days, how many nights, but I was there for a week. And I was there for DEF CON, and DEF CON has a lot of ham activity, so I made sure to bring my ham station stuff. I didn't bring the full gold box. I just threw bits and pieces together. And I managed to find time to actually operate a couple of times. Once actually at the Las Vegas Convention Center West Hall up on the third floor. They have an outdoor area called the Terrace. And I was pretty miserable between the outdoor heat and setting things up and just working through the figuring out how to get set up and operate. Had minimal contact because basically it's a covered outdoor area. This is on the last day I was there. I'd actually already checked out, packed up my hotel room. That's why I've got the luggage there. And the backpack. The backpack's the carry-on luggage. The luggage is the check-in, and I hadn't separated the check-in and the carry-on stuff yet because I wanted to operate. So I went to the parking structure and the parking lot, which is those are usually good places to operate. But the trick I've come up with is you go up to the top floor, and which is frequently has open space, and I set up a vertical antenna up there with radio wires and drop the coax down one floor so that I'm covered and in shade. And in fact, it was a decently nice day, not terribly hot. It was a breezy day, so the wind was blowing through the parking lot, and I wasn't too bad in the heat, at least not when I started. It was starting to get pretty warm by the time I finished. So yes, blue luggage, kind of in the center up, my backpack to the right of that, the KX2 below that, a blue water bottle, a water bottle filled with Pepsi instead, and in the extreme lower right, the antenna system I was using and all the parts of that I had down with me, whereas the antenna was up on top. You can see the coax upper right that's going up one floor. Blue battery and a blue foam protective case. The top running WSJTX. I would call it a duffel bag, not a gym bag, but I always take one of those on trips like this. just in case I end up coming home with more than I left with, so that I can throw it in there. And the McDonald's bags on the left are just holding miscellaneous parts. So had very good luck on 10 meters, mostly into South America. I don't think I got any American stations. I think this is the middle of bad solar stuff going on, so I didn't get too much on 20 or 15. But had a good time, operated a while. The battery didn't last as long as I thought it would. I wonder if I've ruined the battery letting it sit for 2 years. Back to net, AI6DG.
Well, thank you very much for that explanation, Joel. Any other comments on this picture? Yeah, I think that looks like a lithium battery, and that would be ashamed if it's been ruined. I think a battery like that is pretty expensive. How often are you supposed to keep that charged to keep it from losing its capacity, Joel? Over.
I'm not sure, although I think lithiums have very low leakage current, so they should keep a charge for a pretty long time. I'm not aware that I ever overly discharged it, but I didn't really pay attention to it for quite a while. So it seems to take the charge okay, but it didn't last as long as I thought it would. So what I need to do is just throw a meter onto it that'll just indicate to me the amount of discharge in watt hours, and see if I'm getting the 190 watt hours out of it that I should be. Yeah, it's a $200 battery. I actually did price it because I was concerned whether or not it was going to get through TSA, and I didn't have any trouble, but although I think technically it's too large. Back to net, AI6DG.
Okay, thank you very much for that information, and we'll go down the list here. N6. Well, let's take a standby. Are there any other check-ins for the net now? KP4MD.
Well, good evening. Let's see if I'm making it in. N6YG.
Okay, I think somebody tried to check in with a really, really low modulation. Could you try that one more time?
My bad. Wrong microphone selection. N6YG.
Oh, wonderful. Nice to hear you in there, George. We're going to add you on as number 4 then. Very good. Now we're going to go to number 2. November 6 Hotel Alpha. Go ahead, Bill, with your picture.
Yeah, this is going to be PD120, N6HA.
Okay, thank you very much for that picture, Bill. We'll go down to George. N6YG, how did you copy that, and you have any comments on it? Over.
Well, I wasn't quite set up to receive, so I only caught part of that. Still trying to figure out what I'm looking at, if it's shifted or not. Looks like I have two separate images. The bottom one just looks like a fairly long 440, maybe a cross-polarized antenna on a tripod, pointed up at maybe 15 degrees or so, maybe closer to 30, I don't know. And the top one looks like it may be, I'm not sure, it looks like, what do you call it, one of the reverse beacon network pictures. So, back to net N6YG.
Okay, thank you. Over to you, Joel. How did you copy that, and what do you make of it? Over.
So got some pops on it, not a huge number, not a small number, just in between. A little bit of fuzz across the middle of Mexico on the map, on the upper picture, where the repeater ID. I agree, 440, a map of contacts on the top half, but it's stretching all the way from Japan over to France, so I'm a little confused with that being matched with the 440 antenna. The only thing I can think of is that we're doing satellite contacts of some kind with the antenna. Pretty good spread across the U.S., Japan, Hawaii, somewhere out in the Caribbean, and France, or somewhere like that. Back to net, AI6DG.
Hey, thank you, Joel. Thank you. Bill, N6HA, could you please explain what the picture is? Over.
Yeah, great guesses. Yeah, this is one of my bucket list items. I've been scheming to try to get this working, and I finally did it. This is my map of pretty much my first pass of green cube using an 18-element 70-centimeter Yagi on a tripod that you see on the bottom picture there. So I did about it was an hour pass that had a pretty good coverage, a lot of the U.S. as you can see, and I worked about 30 stations, so that was pretty good for my first time. I think everyone saw a new call sign, so they kind of jumped on me. So yeah, I got Spain, 2 Puerto Rican stations, Russia is the one off to the left. I also got Hawaii, and a lot of the U.S. and a little bit of Canada. So it was a lot of fun. It was very fast and a lot of up and down to move that huge beam on a tripod. So I had a good time. I hope to do it again and see if I could get work all states on the satellite. N6HA, back to net.
Okay, wow, that was a lot to digest. Could you please explain to me what is a green cube, and how were you able to get stations so distant on, was that on a single pass? How were you able to do that? Over.
Yeah, Green Cube is a medium Earth orbit satellite that has an amateur radio transceiver on it. It's one of the only medium Earth orbits. All the other satellites are low Earth orbit, like the ISS. So being medium Earth orbit, it means that it has a huge footprint. It's about 7,000 kilometers up in the air. So on any given pass, you have all of America, and depending on the angle, you could get into Europe and also Japan very easily. And then on other passes, you could get down in South America. A typical low Earth orbit satellite takes about 10 minutes to go from acquisition of signal to loss of signal, while Green Cube is so high up and the footprint so large, it takes about an hour and 10 minutes. So because of that, you could work a bunch of stations. I'll let it drop. And you do it digitally, so this is not a voice or linear satellite. This is a digital mode satellite using similar to A25, the APRS protocol. There's special software you need to use with it and other things, and you need a lot of gain to work the satellite because it's very quiet. So yeah, it was very challenging to swing this around as I pointed at the satellite. And yeah, I hope to do it again. N6HA.
Okay, so do I understand this is like a digipeater and you're using an FM transmitter? What kind of power were you using?
Yeah, it's not FM. It's single sideband for some reason. So you need an SSB rig that does 70 centimeters, and I was using 10 watts of power with an 18-element Yagi. So I think that thing is over 10 dB of gain at least. It's a lot of gain. You don't want to push too much power at the bird because they say it overwhelms it. So yeah, not too much. Right now I'm using a FT857 as my transmit radio, and there's some quirks with it.
Very interesting. Well, congratulations. Are there anybody else with any questions about this? Over. Okay, thanks. So now this green cube, what is the Oscar designator number for this satellite? Over.
It's a Italy Oscar 117, so IO 117 green cube. It originally was a science satellite that they were growing, I think it was lima beans in space in zero gravity, and they piggybacked on amateur radio as a way to send down their telemetry and scientific data. In the news a while back, they're considering shutting it down, and that's when AMSAT Italy took it over. So it was quite the story, and it's been up and down. It's been having some stability issues, but yeah, it's IO 117.
Hey, thank you very much for that. My gosh, I didn't realize they were up that high in the numbers already. My last satellite contact was on AMSAT Oscar 7. That's just to give you an idea of my last contact through a satellite, and that was back almost 50 years ago. So thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and send a picture. This is Kilo Papa 4 Mike Delta, and this is going to be PD120.
Comment.
Yeah, go ahead, comment.
I just wanted to add that, talking about satellites, we're kind of behind the times here compared to Europe. They have a geostationary satellite. I believe it's on 10 gigahertz that they utilize out there. There's a ham that runs a SDR receiver monitoring it, and they send slow scan TVs through that satellite on the microwave frequencies. I've actually decoded SSTV via from that satellite via the SDR using virtual audio cables, and that was pretty interesting. So it'd be nice if we had something like that as well.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Yes, I have read about the 10 gigahertz geostationary satellite. It's really nice to have something they could just point to, and it's there all day, 24 hours a day. Thank you very much for sharing that. And I'll go ahead and send my picture now, KP for MD. Okay, this is KP4MD. Over to you, George. N6YG, how did you copy this, and any comments on it? Over.
Quite a few pixel pops in it, and other than that, it came over good. There's no slant, nice sync, and homebrew night. Is that a club event that's coming up? I see the River City logo in the corner there, so I'm assuming it is.
Hey, thank you very much, George. Over to you, Joel. Alpha India 6 Delta Golf. Over.
Yeah, there are a fair number of pops, but the white background, it's just really hard to hide them, so they're very obvious. I'm sure I've seen this before. I'm not sure how old it is, but it's been around a while. So back to net, the I6DG.
Okay, I'm going to ask Bill, how did you receive it, and any comments on this also? N6HA KP4MD.
Yeah, pretty good copy here. There's a lot of yellow pixel pops, which I don't see that often. Usually they're red and green, so that's kind of interesting, at least on my receive. Yeah, I think this is the mascot for Mad Magazine, maybe. He has a name tag on. I can't quite make out. It ends with IECCH, potentially, and then something club. So yeah, Homebrew Night, always a crowd pleaser. I presented last year and had fun doing so. I think everyone enjoyed the day. It's always fun to see what other people are working on. And I hope to present again this year, but I've done more repairs this year than I have home brewing. I have to think what I've worked on. So I might present again this year. I look forward to seeing what other people will present also. It's always a fun night. N6HA back to net.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm going to explain. This is this image actually was a cover photo on an issue of 73 magazine back from the 1970s, and that character is very similar to the mascot of Mad Magazine, who was Alfred E. Newman. It's not exactly the same character. This is drawn by another artist, and on the original image, you can actually read the name plate. It says, instead of Alfred E. Newman, it's Al Freddie Newham, WN1ECCH, no club. And if you notice what he's doing, he's got a Weller soldering gun in his hand. I've got one of those. That's a dual heat. You could either do 100 or 140 watts on it. Almost everybody had one of those back in the years. And he is going to attempt to solder the power cord on the soldering gun, which would be quite an explosive experience for him. Once he touches the solder in his hand to one of those wires, when it touches the hot wire, it's going to give him a 110 volt shock. And he's got a book open in front of him on the table that reads how to solder. So apparently he's learning how to solder and trying to repair the cord of the soldering gun itself, which would be quite a mistake. So, yeah, kind of a similar likeness, but not exactly the same as the Mad Magazine image mascot. So, yep, we have an upcoming homebrew night. That's going to be September 10th, where members come and they do a presentation on any of their homebrew projects, and we have a competition for prizes. So it's coming up September 10th, and looking forward to it. So let's go over to you, George. N6YG, if you have a picture ready, is KP4MD.
Yeah, I think I have a picture ready. I barely made it in here tonight. I forgot about it. I took a break from the radio. I spent all week chasing that stupid November 5 Juliet DX expedition, and getting like 4 hours of sleep a night trying to get them on some of the lower bands. And then when they went QRT, I was getting ready to turn off the radio, and my old friend showed up. I haven't talked to him in a long time. Whiskey 6 Lima Golf, and so we ended up working some Africa stations for a few hours in the morning and talking, and so I finally got some sleep after that. But I'm going to send this picture. I didn't have time to get all the pictures in this series, and I couldn't send them all at one time anyway. So here we go. Let's see if I have tone. How's the modulation on that? Is it overdriving?
No, not at all. It sounds fine, and I didn't know you knew Jim Heath. Very good. Thank you for sharing that. Over.
Oh yeah. For a while now. Anyways, yeah, I unfortunately I accidentally unplugged my hub that had the radios plugged into it, and it reassigned everything, and I had to figure out what was what, and where was what, and it was what a hassle that was. So I'm looking at, I want to check the output right now and make sure. Yeah, see, it's at 100%. I'm gonna take that down. I don't want to overdrive. N6YG, here we go.
Okay, thank you for sending that picture. By the way, for anybody interested, Jim Heath, W6 Lima Golf, has a YouTube channel. He's kind of like an Elmer there. He puts out these videos every once in a while. He's retired. He was the proprietor of High Sierra Antennas up in we're near Nevada City, I believe, for a good number of years. Retired several years ago, and he's moved to Rockland, and I understand he's having some difficulties with his health, but he's dedicated himself to just putting out kind of teaching videos, Elmer videos on his YouTube channel, and the name of his channel is Jim Whiskey 6 Lima Golf. So a very productive member of our community here. Let's go up to Joel, AI6 Delta Golf, and see how you receive that and any comments about it. Over.
Excellent. Very few pops. Unfortunately, I've got a tear on the bottom third, but that's probably on my end because I've been using the computer while it was coming in doing other things. And this isn't the beefiest compute power of a computer. Looks like we're looking at the end of a cable, UHF connector. I always get the PL and the SO numbers mixed up, so I'm not sure which one it is, but it's the end that plugs into the radio, and we're missing the barrow part that twists onto. Looks a little dirty. It's sitting on top of a mat. So I don't know if it's dirt or corrosion. I'm not sure what the objective here is. But back to net, the I6TG.
Hey, thank you. Let's go down to you, Bill. N6HA, your comments on this picture, over.
Yeah, it looks like George might be changing out a coax cable, potentially. I see coax on a work mat. There's looks like mud maybe on the black outside there, and that connector. I can't tell if it's in bad shape or not. I do see that he's missing the ferrule, the part that spins over it. It doesn't look like a new cable. I've done that before, where I've crimped a cable and then I realized I didn't put on the the spinny bit. I'm very new to ham radio, so please forgive me. So yeah, I wonder if you pulled this out of the backyard and you're either happy with the way it looks or you're not happy. I think it looks a little crusty, but I like to see what George has to say about it. N6HA back to net.
Yeah, I think what he did there was probably unscrewed the barrel and put it out of the side of the picture so that you can see where the dirt is coming right up into the base of that PL259. So yeah, why don't you tell us what's going on with this, George, please? N6YG KP4MD.
You could probably get a better look at it if you hit the little magnifying glass in the corner and zoom in on it. And Carol, you're exactly right. This was kind of a little experiment I did. Several pieces of old RG8 coax with different connectors on them. They were left outside for about 3.5 years, lying on the ground. They were screwed onto SO239 panel mounts to simulate being screwed together. And so I had a crimp connector. They were all on old 50-foot pieces of RG8, and I had measured I had measured these with the VNA for insertion loss, and noted that in my little notebook. And then 3 years later, which was yesterday, I decided I was going to remeasure them and see what sitting outside for 3 years did with no protection. And between 3 different types of connectors, I had 2 of them were PL259s, a crimp-style PL259, the old-fashioned solder type PL259, and then the other was an N connector, the clamp-style N connector, which I really like that style. And of course, this screw-on PL259 absolutely just sucked. The loss in that cable, which started out at about 2-point-something dB at 100 megahertz, went up to almost, I think it was like 19 dB of loss after sitting outside for 3 years. Reset. And when this was cut off and stripped back, the coax had suffered significant water intrusion. Interesting enough, the clamp connector was just as good after 3 years sitting outside with no protection as it was when it was first measured. There was no degradation in signal whatsoever and loss in the coax. Cut it open and looked at it, had no water intrusion either. So the crimp connectors do a real good job of sealing them up. And the clamp style N connector, it fared just as well. It had no water intrusion either. So I'm gonna actually made the decision on all my outdoor PL259s to go to the new style MNP. makes a really nice clamp style PL259 that's good to 1 gigahertz. I swept them up to 400 megahertz, and they're pretty impressive. It's a new style of PL259. It attaches to the coax the same way that the clamp style end connectors do, and they're real good. They're real waterproof as well. So that's maybe next week I'll send a picture of one of those. N6YG back to net.
Yeah, thank you very much, George, for that explanation. Yeah, all the PL259s that I have going up to my VHF HF antennas have crimp connectors on them. And even with that, I still put the coax seal or the silicone type sealing tape around the connector. And I personally like to fill the space between that SO239. I will go ahead and put some Vaseline in there to make sure there isn't an empty space up there that's going to wick up any kind of humidity from anywhere. Anybody else have any other kind of comments over? Yeah, I do have a question for you, George. What do you think about the idea of filling up the space between the PL259 and an SO239 with Vaseline? Uh, uh, I made the mistake many years ago when I first thought of trying to fill up that space of putting silicone caulk in there. But the kind that I first used was the kind that had acetic acid, and I learned that was a big boo-boo because when I opened it up to recheck it after a few years, it had the smell of vinegar, and boy, was there some corrosion in there. So I've never made that same mistake again. Over.
Yeah, acidic acid also needs air, oxygen to cure. So I'm surprised it was cured. I'm thinking something different because if you had to use silicone caulk, I'm thinking silicone caulk. That would have glued those two pieces together. It had never gotten apart. Vaseline is interesting. I'm curious. You know, the only way to really know, and the only test I couldn't do on this coax is I don't have my high pot tester anymore. I should have never sold it. I'd be curious about flashover with the Vaseline, but I don't see that being a problem. Really, it sounds like a good idea. I mean, that's what they do with like RG6 flooded cables. And I'm not sure exactly. I thought they used some sort of silicone that they flood those cables with to protect them from water egress, from water getting in the coax. So that's kind of common in like the TV industry. Wonder if we can get a hold of whatever it is that they use.
Yeah, I remember reading somewhere where another manufacturer recommended another product that was instead of Vaseline, but of course cost like 10 times as much. But I've never had any problem with Vaseline at all, and I don't think I've actually had a PL259 in a high voltage node at any point that would risk that sort of thing anyhow. Because usually where you plug the PL259 in, it's supposed to be pretty close to a 50 ohm impedance, like a low impedance spot. Any other comments about this before we continue?
I have one last comment.
Yeah, go ahead, George.
The only time you would find really high voltage and why you would high pot test the coax is if you're feeding wire antennas and using tuners and dealing with high SWRs, you can wind up with some pretty high voltage nodes in the coax.
Yep, yeah, that's always a possibility, and my particular antennas have not been set up like that. Okay, well, let's see. We're almost up to the top of the hour, and I'll just open it up if anybody wants to send another picture. Otherwise, George, if you're ready to send a closing picture, that would be fine. That's KP from D.
All right.
Okay.
Load up a picture here. Hold on a second here. I'm going to send this Robot 72. There's no reason to have a big mode. N6YG.
Okay, thank you very much, George. That's a very cute picture to close the net with. Thank you very much. This is Kilo Papa 4 Mike Delta. We want to thank everyone who participated in tonight's Slow Scan Television Net. We hope to see you again next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Pacific Time. This net is now officially closed at 8:51 p.m. This is Carol, Kilo Papa 4 Mike Delta, wishing you all a good evening.
So thank you for running the net tonight, Carol, and November 6 Hotel Alpha from N6YG. Are you still on frequency?
Hey, George. Hey, what's up? N6HA.